Hi everyone, so I'm going to teach you now a very simple table arrangement. This could be used maybe as a Christmas decoration for your table. So first of all, what do you need? So you can write this down just for yourself. So first of all, you need a spray tray. These can be bought in a local flower shop. It's just a cheap plastic container. On top of that then, you need a block of floral foam. Again, this can be purchased in a local flower shop. Now the floral foam, what we're going to do is drop it into a bucket of water. If you just have a basin or a sink, it's fine. Fill up your basin or your sink with water. Drop that down, don't push it down, let it go down itself. It normally takes around 100 seconds, and then straight away you'll have a block of soaked floral foam. And I'll show you how to prepare that in a few minutes. Now we would like to add candles to this arrangement. So you will need as many candles as you wish. I'm going to use 3 white candles. But again, you can tone this in with the colour of your decor, your theme for Christmas. To get the candle into the arrangement, you need what's called a candle holder. Now again, the candle holders, they can be purchased in a local flower shop. For decorating it, I'm going to use a lot of, say, garden foliage. So stuff that you can forage yourself. So maybe a couple of lengths of eucalyptus. Eucalyptus is very readily available. A lot of people would have a eucalyptus tree growing in their garden. And the scent of the eucalyptus is amazing. And in and out through the eucalyptus, I'm going to use a little bit of silver sussex. Now again, this mightn't be as readily to forage, but again, you can use something else, like maybe like a little bit of pittosporum. To bring a little bit of a Christmas theme into it, I'm going to use a couple of branches of spruce or nobilis Christmas tree greenery. And around this time of the year, you will even find that the shops that are selling Christmas trees, they will have lots of these branches and they're more than willing to give them to you. But again, if you have a problem getting foliage, go to your local florist and you can purchase a bunch of mixed foliage. But as I said, there's nothing wrong with using items out of the garden. Now it'll be just beautiful with just a foliage, but if you want to give it a little bit of a Christmas theme, what about a couple of pine cones? So maybe 5 or 6 pine cones will be fine. And to wire these pine cones, you will need some wires. Now the wires will probably only be available in a flower shop. These are called a 20 gauge wire. And basically all we're doing is in around the petals of the pine cone, down quite low, you insert the wire in between the pine cones, the petals, wrap the wire around the pine cone until basically you have a small bit of wire and a large piece of wire, and you twist the 2 of them together. And that's the pine cone wired. So you can use as many pine cones as you wish. I have about 5 or 6 here. And just to add a little bit of bling, because I like bling, I have these little silver poinsettias. They also come in gold, but again, if you were to check out, I'm going to say walk around shops, that way, but again, flower shops, you could pick up little novelty ideas like this to add to the arrangement. I also have a little bit of artificial holly. I find if you're making this arrangement early, fresh holly may not last quite as long, so a little bit of artificial holly. But listen, depending on the time of year or closer to Christmas, add in fresh holly and it'll be perfect. So now we're ready to get prepared and start our flower arrangement. If you have a little knife, any knife will do, like even a butter knife, what I want you to do is cut the 4 corners off the block of floral foam. I'll explain why in a second. So just go around your block and cut the 4 corners off. You can throw them in the bin if you like. And the next thing you're going to do is get your knife and just run along the edge there and take the bare corners off. And again, I find when you're making a flower arrangement, it's easier to insert the foliage into the arrangement if you have already removed the corners. So once you have your block trimmed off, you're then going to place it down into the container. Now originally the block fit the container perfect, but now with the corners cut off, we have a little bit of space. A well is what I would call it. And this is great for holding surplus water. So this is going to be a fresh arrangement and the greenery is going to drink the water out of the floral foam. So what I need you to do is every 2 or 3 days is top it up with extra water. And the spare little bit of space around the floral foam is like a well and it'll hold the surplus water, and that will prolong the life of your arrangement. I'm not including fresh flowers into this display, but you could. Now, next thing you need is to strap it in. The professional item to use is what we call anchor tape. So this is what anchor tape looks like. And again, it can be bought in a flower shop. But if you're doing this at home just for yourself, a piece of sellotape would do the same job. So what I want you to do is get your anchor tape, cut a nice long piece. Obviously you'll need the scissors, should have mentioned that earlier on. any scissors will do, and get your anchor tape then and strap it around the container, and just make sure it comes back around on top of itself. The exact same if you have sellotape. It's just to make sure it's really secure. Where if you barely catch it around, there is a risk that it may come apart. Now I would recommend maybe to use 2 pieces of tape. Use one on that end and one on the opposite end, and then you're ready to start adding some material. I recommend getting the candle holder and placing it on the candle first. As you can see, it's quite stiff to stick them in. The mistake people make is they place the candle holder in the foam first and then try to stick the candle in, and you'll end up making a large hole. So on your 3 candles, you have your candle holder. Now just for simplicity, I'm going to stick 1 candle in the centre and then 1 on the right and 1 on the left. But listen, it's completely up to you. Now my candles are exactly the same size. An option is you could cut a little piece off the end of the 2 outside candles, and that makes them smaller. Make sure you cut it from this end and then insert them into the candle holder. Now with the foliage, what I did was I got 2 pieces of foliage and I cut them about 12 inches, 30 centimetres in length. So 2 pieces of eucalyptus first of all. Make sure that you remove the bottom leaf. That makes your stem nice and clean. And into either end of the arrangement, you're going to insert them in and push them about 1 or 2 inches into the floral foam, just to make sure that they won't fall out. That's going to give you the overall length of your arrangement. Now you can choose to make it a little bit longer or a little bit shorter, depending on the length of your dining room table. Now also what I have is 2 little pieces of silver sussex. Now again, if you're substituting for another foliage, that's fine. And what I'm going to do is, again, I'm just using a different hole in the floral foam, but I'm just going to place that down on top of it. And you see that it just adds another, just going to place that one on a slant, a little bit more of a texture going through the arrangement. And that's what I find, especially if you're going to keep this old foliage, have lots of different varieties and different textures of foliage. And last but not least, I have 2 pieces of spruce. Now sometimes the spruce can be a little bit kind of like crooked. So what I would find what's handy to do, first of all, cut your stem on a slant, you know, like a 45-degree angle. But if you just place it higher into the floral foam, and that way then let the greenery hang down, right, rather than actually sticking in that way that your greenery is sticking up in the air. So place it into the foam slightly higher, but let the greenery hang down, and then stick it into the floral foam. And again, you're getting another texture of foliage. You see coming out, you have your mixture of eucalyptus, you have your silver sussex, and now you have your spruce. Now, as I said, if you have the fresh holly, you could add that in as well. Just to watch with this one, you see the way it's a little bit curved. Well, what I would find is if I stick it in that way, see it's going to stick up in the air. So again, that's what I mean by placing it a little bit higher into the foam, let the greenery slightly hang down, and then you can push it back in again. Now, each foliage has its own space on the floral foam. You will find if you try to stick 2 pieces into the one hole, the hole will just get big, and then the items are going to fall back out again. So there we have the length of our table arrangement. So now we're going to move on to some shorter pieces of foliage. So next I want to add some foliage to the width of the arrangement. Now you don't want to go too wide, because remember, you're going to have your dinner plates on either side of the table, unless you're not planning on feeding your guests, right? So obviously it's going to be a narrow arrangement, and the emphasis is on the length. So I have shorter pieces of foliage here. I'm going to say 6 or 7 inches, 15 centimetres approximately. Everything is just approximately. And what I'm going to do is on either side of the arrangement, if I stick one in on the right hand side, I'm also going to stick one in on the left hand side. And then in the 4 corners, so if you imagine I have the 2 long ones and I have 2 short ones at the side. So imagine the 4 corners of the arrangement. If I stick one in that corner and one in that corner, I'm going to turn it around to you. And then do exactly the same in the opposite corner. You're getting kind of like a diamond effect to the arrangement. Now as I turn it around, can you see the spaces in between each of them pieces? Because remember these 2 long ones, I had used a mixture of foliage. Well again, using these pieces of eucalyptus, just stick another piece of eucalyptus in between them. It doesn't have to be exactly in between them, and even if there's still little spaces left over, that's absolutely fine. Just to show you, I'm going to put 2 pieces in there, I'm going to put 1 piece in there, I'm going to put an extra piece in over here, and I'll just turn it back around again, and you might say to yourself, what about putting another piece in there? So what I'm now going to do is, using some little pieces of silver sussex, is I'm going to follow that pattern. So the first thing I'll do is I'm just looking for 2 that's similar length. On the right and the left hand side, you see, to kind of give the width of the arrangement, you see that I've added in a little bit of silver sussex. And then in the 4 corners of the arrangement, so one about here, one about there, we'll turn it around, and the same on the opposite side, so one in that corner and one in the opposite corner. And then in the spaces between it, and again, it doesn't have to be in the exact same space. Remember, I'm going to avoid the holes where I've already inserted the eucalyptus. So what about a little piece in there? And just get around it, another piece in there, and another piece in there, and you can add as many as you wish, okay? So again, that's just kind of giving you an idea what it's looking like so far on that side of the table. And then we come back around here, and I bet your eye is actually seeing the spaces, and in your head you're saying she better put one in there, and she better put another one in there, and what about another one in there? Are you seeing them spaces? And this is where we call it that your eye is getting trained, and you actually see the spaces where you need to put in the foliage. Now I'm using a turntable here, and it does make life a little bit easier for me because I'm able to turn it around. But maybe some of you that are watching me, maybe you ice cakes at home, and you might have like one of them little cake stands, and you could use that. But even an upturned pot at home would do a similar job. Now what I'm now going to do is add in a little bit of the spruce. Now just here and there, I don't want to overdo the spruce because the spruce is quite heavy. So I'll do a similar effect on the right and on the left. So again, as you can turn around, you see the way it's really, we're getting down them textures, we're getting them lovely shades of greens and blues and silver coming through it. And then maybe in the four corners, so maybe one in that corner, maybe one in the opposite corner, and you can see all my pieces are random lengths, they're not exactly the same length. And again, in this corner over here, and then another piece in the corner over here. So as I said, I'm saying 6 or 7 inches, this one's a little bit longer, I'm saying 15 centimetres approximately, like nothing is measured, and yet as I turn it around, you can see the effect. Now I'm not going to add extra spruce in between them pieces, because I feel it would be a little bit too heavy, and it'll probably hide the eucalyptus and the pittosporum that I've put in already. So we now have the outline of the arrangement, and the rest is really, really easy. What you're looking for now are all short little pieces. So I'll start off with short little pieces of eucalyptus. I have a bundle of them here. So starting around the centre candle, if you were to place all these short little pieces in on a slant, coming away from the candle. So it's coming away from the candle on that side and coming away from the candle on that side. And what about a little bit lower away from the candle and a little bit lower away from the candle? And again, if you felt you could stick another one in there and you could stick another one in there. Do you see how this is working? I'm going to go in between them with the silver sussex in a few minutes. I'm now going to just turn it that direction. So again, keeping close to the centre candle, if I was to place that one in on a slant going away from the centre candle and that one in on a slant going away from the centre candle. And again, have you got more space? What about another one down there? And what about another one down there? And as I turn that around, you see how it's coming together. Now when you do that, so you kind of have like a slight row of foliage going lengthways and then going sideways, do you see these areas here? I call them like the 4 high corners of the arrangement, and again we have the matching 2 over there. Using again these short little pieces of eucalyptus, place everything in on a slant. Keep these all short, 10 centimetres less than 15 centimetres. Put that piece in on a slant over there, that piece in on a slant over there, that piece in on a slant over there, you getting the idea? And that piece in on a slant. And I still have 2 or 3 more left in my hand, so just random. I think I'll stick that one in there, I think I'll stick that one in there, and here's one more on the table, I'm going to stick that one in there. So everything is coming away lightly. Now depending on the number of foliage you have, if you want to keep it and put a lot more eucalyptus in, that's absolutely fine. But I've used up the pieces that I have. So now next of all, I have little pieces of silver sussex, and I'm going to follow a similar pattern. Now again, random lengths. We have these bushy little pieces, about 10 or 12 centimetres, and I have these long scrawny pieces, probably 15 to 18 centimetres. So as I pick them up, I'll find a little spot. I'll follow a similar pattern. So I'll start at the candle and I'll come away from it on a slant, away from it on a slant. And then I'll go down a little bit lower, and what about a piece here on a slant and another one here on a slant, and maybe another one here and maybe another one here. And you can see there, I'm randomly picking up the pieces, and if your eyes say, sure, what about over there and what about over there, go ahead and do it. Turn the arrangement around and now go sideways. So the same idea, starting close to the centre candle. Put that one in on a slant. Now this is a skinny little one, stick it in on a slant. But you know what, don't worry about it being too skinny. Pick up another one and stick it in, and that one was much longer. It doesn't really matter. So again, put all the pieces in on a slant. I always find, start near the candle, you know the way, and then work your way kind of like down through the arrangement. Now again, when I turn it around, can you see that area there has no silver sussex, and that corner, and that corner, and that corner. The same idea, the 4 high corners. So again, it's a random system. Place everything in on a slant. So have all your greenery and stick one in on a slant, stick another one in on a slant, and it'll be a lot easier when you're doing this if you look at what you're doing, where I'm actually working over myself and some of the greenery is falling out of my hand, but that doesn't matter. Once they go in on a slant, you can't go wrong. If you start putting them in straight, do you see the way you lose the shape? So put everything kind of slightly in on an angle, okay, and just I'm over this side because I'm looking at it, I can speed up. And I'll stick these ones in on a slant, and then I can turn it around and I can show you the side that I've done, and then I can correct the side that's facing you because obviously I can't see it. But as I said, you're just basically sticking everything in on a slant, all the textures, all the colours. Now, not completely finished, but can you see the way that side is a little bit fuller? So then the side that was facing you, I'm just going to improve it here a little bit with a few little extra ones coming up in and out through it. Now, to keep it even, I'm going to add in little bits of the spruce. So I have some short little pieces of spruce, and I'll use some of that as well. And then if you had maybe other types of greenery out of your own garden, like this time of the year, everybody will be able to get some wild ivy. You know the wild ivy? It's absolutely fantastic, and it's a great filler for these arrangements. Now again, if you're able to turn your arrangement around like I can on the turntable, your eye will be kind of drawn for the little gaps, you know, like where we're trying to camouflage and hide the floral foam. But it's not a competition to try and cover all the floral foam completely, because otherwise then the floral foam might fall apart. So in your head kind of think, less is best, and then you'll find you'll have no problem. Now I have lots of little pieces of short spruce here. Now a secret with the spruce is make sure all the needles, do we call these the needles? You see the little leaves, that you have like a bit of clean stem at the end. So again, starting in close to the candle, I'm going to start inserting these little pieces on a slant. So some of them are skinny little scrawny pieces, and some of them are a little bit chunkier. Here's a chunky one here, see if it's a little bit thicker. So again, I'm kind of working lengthways down through the arrangement. Now I'm going to work sideways, you know what I mean, across the arrangement. There's another lovely chunky one, you know that way. So some of my pieces are like short little skimpy little ones, and as I said, some of them are that little bit bushier. Make sure that you check out the shops that are selling the Christmas trees. As I said, they always have offcuts. But when it comes near Christmas, all your flower shops are going to be selling bunches of spruce and bunches of holly. I'm now working on the 4 high corners, you know, like the same system that I used. And at this stage, I'm kind of like looking at the arrangement, and my eye has been drawn where I can kind of see a good bit of floral foam showing. And the great thing about the spruce, as I said, it is heavy, but it fills in really, really fast. I'm using some of the pieces to try and camouflage where the candle holder is, because the candle holder is kind of like, it's plastic, you know that way, and it's a little bit unsightly looking. So you will find like short little bits of greenery in around near your candle holder. That'll help to camouflage it, and then at least when they're sitting down eating their dinner, like they're not looking at big lumps of plastic. Now that's what it looks like so far in just foliage. I could probably use 1 or 2. I'm going to take that one from there and I'm going to put it over here. But that's just foliage. Now I've left a little bit of space because I want to put some decorations through it. But if you just would like to keep this as an all foliage arrangement, and chances are if you can forage the material, like forage the foliage, it's costing you so little. And once you keep this arrangement well watered, remember the little well that we left, this will last easily 2 to maybe 3 weeks. If your house is very warm, you'll probably get 2 weeks out of it. So now we're going to move on to the decoration part. So I have some artificial holly, but as I said, if you have fresh holly, absolutely included. So I'm going to bring a little bit of artificial holly down that end and a little bit of artificial holly down the opposite end. So if I turn that around here, you can see now when it's mixed in with the fresh foliage, it's actually quite realistic looking, and it's adding in that little bit of berry. I'm going to cut 2 of the pieces a little bit shorter, and just up near the 2 outside candles, I'm going to place that bit in on a slant, just to kind of show you what it looks like, and then another piece over this side on a slant. So it just means the people sitting on either end of the table, can you see the way they're sitting, seeing the little bit of holly? Now you can add in a lot more if you want. I'm just trying to keep this very, very simple. Next then is I have a couple of pine cones. So I'm using 6 pine cones, but you can use as many cones as you want. So the best way is I have 3 cones for each side of the arrangement. So if I place 1 cone on my side, and I have it facing out, show you now what I did. And now I'm going to put a cone on your side. So first of all, the wires will be quite long. So if you bend up the wire into a kind of like a U-bend shape, you see at the end, and then place it into your arrangement near the centre candle, okay? And watch the way I can turn the head, and so I can angle it out to you. Now, so now the people on that side of the table can see a pine cone, and the people on that side of the table can see a pine cone. Now you have 4 cones left. So wouldn't it be easy to put 1 on either side around here, and the same on the opposite side. So the side that's facing me, I'm going to put in 2 cones. I'll turn that around to you. I'm using the same system. I'm bending up the wire, sticking the cone in, and then turning the head so that it's looking out. Do you see that sort of effect? Now I'll do it facing you now. So again, we get our cone, we bend up the wire, we stick it into the arrangement, and then manoeuvre the cone that it's looking its nice side out. And then we have another one. So again, on this side here, we stick it into the arrangement and then manoeuvre the cone head. And that's what it looks like with 6 pine cones. Now that would be gorgeous if you didn't want to put any other decoration in, maybe add in another 3 or 4 cones. And like, even as it is, I think that is beautiful, it is. Now the last thing is, a lot of people would have either a silver theme or a gold theme. So this is where we're going to bring a little bit of bling into the arrangement. So I have these, as I said, silver poinsettias, and the silver works well with the white candles, where the gold works well with the red candles. But really at the end of the day, it's a matter of the theme or the colour that you have in your house. So without thinking about it too much, if you were to bring a little bit of a silver poinsettia, do you see that I just brought that in on an angle on that side? And what about another one on the opposite side? You'll see I kind of like use the pine cones where I'm kind of working in between them. And what about even down a little bit lower? Now that's just 3 little silver poinsettias. Can you see the difference that has added to that arrangement? Say towards the side that hasn't got it in. So we'll do something similar over here. So maybe in between the 3 cones, so I put one in on that side, and like, you don't have to cut them, just stick them down into the foam. One in on this side here, and then one maybe a little bit lower underneath the cone. And again, I'm just going to turn that around to you, and that's just 6 little bits of silver poinsettia divided through that arrangement. Now remember the people that are sitting on either end of the table, presuming it's a big family. So what if we were to stick one in on a slant, just see facing out that way? And what if we were to stick one in on a slant facing out the opposite way? And there you go, that's 8 little bits of silver poinsettia. Now you have 2 left over, okay? But really, I would be happy enough with what's in there. But if you wanted to have one even close to the middle candle, you know, that way, and just kind of like popped in there and turn it around. And if your eye is drawn anywhere because it's on the table, actually I don't really need that one. I'm going to leave it out altogether. So there is a very, very simple. I'll take it off the turntable just so that you can see it. Now, it will drip slightly when I turn it sideways because obviously as I push the material in, you can see the water coming out of it. As I push the material in, it'll push the water out of the foam. Now, when you're doing yours at home, don't hold it on the side like this. I'm just holding it just so that you can see it from different angles, what the arrangement looks like. So now I have a couple of little apples. I just found them lying around the table. And if you want to add them little apples, they come in red as well, by the way. And again, I'm not following any particular pattern. I've just put 2 in so far. There's a 3rd one over here. Just wherever your eye is kind of drawn to. Maybe another one over here. And we'll turn it around and we're going to stick another one over here. One of them, the little spike kind of came off the end of it. But if you just get a florist wire, they're only aeroboard or styrofoam. So just stick a wire up into it, cut it, and then, oops, the daisies, definitely doesn't want to win the arrangement, this apple. You can stick your last one in. So as I said, I hope you enjoyed that tutorial. I'd love to see maybe some photographs of the arrangements that you make yourself. If you post them on Instagram, make sure you tag us, Case Flower School, or if you post it on even our Case Flower School Facebook page, I'd love to see them. So I hope you enjoyed it, and listen, make sure you follow us on YouTube. We have lots more free step-by-step tutorials on YouTube.